Powering Arms is brought to you in part by the Heritage Society. For the past 10 years, Houston has been quickly evolving into the best city in America for military veterans and their families. While they are brimming with international experience, technical skills, leadership, and real-world sense, 1 in 3 returning veterans are being diagnosed with serious post-traumatic stress symptoms. Less than 40% will seek help. Through grassroots networks and word of mouth, our community has risen to the challenge and brought revolutionary therapy options and support to veterans suffering from the invisible wounds of war.
I got to Iraq in December of '07, and I got blown up by an IED in July of 2008. And so that knocked me out of the fight about halfway through my deployment. I was being prescribed a lot of painkillers for the wounds that I had sustained, and that was kind of the beginning of the end for me. I used to hear about Camp Hope on the radio all the time, but whenever I heard it on the radio, I thought, oh, I don't need any place like Camp Hope. But I was in denial. I didn't think I needed help from anybody except me.
I wanted to push everybody away because I didn't want them to know how deep I hurt inside. I didn't want people to see the ugly side of me. About 3 weeks into my insanity, I had overdosed and went into the hospital. And my friend asked me simply, "Are you ready to get help?"
PTSD does several things, but among them is the isolationism. It causes them to withdraw from society, to withdraw from family, people that they're closest to. Well, Gene Birdwell, businessman here in Houston, had heard about the statistics of PTSD in our military. And the more he heard about that, the more he realized, man, we've got to do something about this. 5 years ago, we opened up Camp Hope, which is the housing portion of what we do. We bring in teaching for emotional regulation, anger management. It's really everything in your life. It's not easy, it's not quick, but we also partner with licensed professional counselors that all of our staff, all of our residents see on a weekly basis.
The guys work out of a combat trauma healing manual that talks about the moral injuries of PTSD to find spiritual solutions to their issues. It's that whole connection and that bond that really bring these guys out of their darkness and say, I'm not alone.
The very first night I got here was warrior group night, and to go in and just hear everybody's stories and the way they were talking just openly about everything that I've kept hidden from everybody for all these years and stuff like that, it was pretty amazing.
Sharing your story is a way of spreading knowledge to people that you might not think you're helping at all. But the truth of the matter is that, your story could end up saving someone else's life.
I came here on a Tuesday, and I sat in my first group, and some of the guys were sharing their stories. At that moment, I realized that I wasn't alone with this fight. Trying to talk to my friends. I went off to war, they went off to college, and me telling some of my war stories, and I think it's super awesome. Some aspects it is, and the other aspects, the deeper issues that come along with going to war. Coming here and be able to express that to people who actually understand is relieving. One veteran helping another veteran, like we get it, from one person who understands to another person who understands is where really the healing comes from.
I think for anyone that's experienced a complete life change, whatever form that may come in, there's a natural desire to sort of repay that or pay it forward. There's something very therapeutic about it. So for our vets that come through our program, many of them want to find a way to turn around and help the next veteran come home.
What I found here at Camp Hope was brotherhood. What I found at Camp Hope was connection. And I can only say that through the mentors and the people that were working here that I was able to say, you know what, I want what they have. I realized that if someone didn't help me, I can't help anybody else. So if we can just help one person, this thing will multiply. It's a force multiplier.
Camp Hope really put the mirror in front of my face. Finally, for the first time in my life, that I unconditionally and unapologetically actually love myself.
While it's disappointing to me that it's the only place in the country like this, it's very inspiring to me that it's happening here in Houston, Texas. Our entire city ought to be proud of the fact that Camp Hope exists right here in Houston.
PTSD has been known by many names, such as shell shock and combat fatigue. But PTSD does not just happen to combat veterans. It can happen to anyone in the wake of a traumatic event. The symptoms interfere with everyday activities, work, and relationships. While inpatient therapy like that provided at Camp Hope is essential to the recovery of some, outpatient options have become available to offer hope on the road to recovery.
PTSD is a soul wounding. It's a wounding morally, and to be able to help people see it clearly is very therapeutic for me, because it makes me realize that God has a plan for me. That plan, I feel, is to help others, to bring them to Christ, to bring them the hope and the healing that I've been able to receive through it. I've never been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, but through my childhood and events that have happened, I suffer from it. And it led me to living a lifestyle that was not very productive. In 2009, I got into an altercation with some guys and ended up getting run over in the parking lot. It was all because of that lifestyle, that will to just feed the flesh and never to try to get to the root of what was going on, because it's painful to know the truth.
Gary found that once the healing begins, life can continue in a positive way. Through a collaborative partnership with several organizations, CS Ministries began offering its services to provide the follow-on care for those veterans seeking continued counseling, education, and fellowship. He embarked on a mission of compassion, and he calls the program Grace.
What is grace? Well, defined as something that you get that you don't deserve. For CS Ministries, the Grace Program Scholarship pays for 12 weeks of intensive counseling at the Refuge Trauma Treatment Center here in Conroe, or if they don't want talk therapy, they can go to Henry's Home Horse Sanctuary, which was equine therapy, at no cost to them. What we're doing here is working. We're seeing tremendous success with those guys that stick with it. There's no cure for post-traumatic stress, but there is hope, and there's recovery in it. You can find recovery if you look in the right place. And for us, that right place is in Christ.